Have you reached a point where nothing's technically wrong, but nothing feels quite right either? Where the old way of showing up doesn't fit, but the next path isn't quite visible yet? Welcome to Biz Success in 15. I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz, and when you give me 15 minutes, I'll give you one story, one 15-minute action step, and visibility that leads to more influence and profits. Today we'll be talking about the cocoon season. That's that in-between place where the old way doesn't feel quite right, but the new way isn't clear to us yet. When this is you, things don't feel right. You might feel tight. You might feel constricted. You just might feel uncomfortable. You just know that it's not quite right. And honestly, this time of the year, with it being the new year, it's a time of change. It brings in a lot of feelings. We want the change. That's why we make New Year's resolutions and New Year's goals. We're going to stop these old habits and we're going to create these new habits over here. We're going to have all this success this year. This is what it's going to look like. But then on the other side of the coin, that's not too far away, is we fear change. It's important to know that this isn't failure. It's not a lack of motivation. It's not that you're doing business wrong. It's simply a transition, and transition is very uncomfortable by nature. So let me share a story with you about Carly the caterpillar. Carly, her life was great. She knew exactly what to expect every single day that she woke up. She would wake up, she would go to her favorite leaf and eat. She would meet her friends, and they would all crawl around together and just mosey along through the grass, and they knew what to expect. Her friends cheered her on whenever she wasn't feeling quite up to the walk that day, just as she would cheer them on. It was a simple life. It was quiet, it was nice, and she knew what to expect. She would lay her head down and go to sleep every night, knowing that tomorrow was going to be the same, and that was okay. She liked the same old, same old. And then all of a sudden, one day, something shifted inside of Carly, and it didn't feel really comfortable to her anymore. It wasn't right. And this sort of scared her because she'd been crawling along these grass for a long time with the same friends, eating the same foods. And she was like, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't this feel normal anymore? Why don't I even want to do this anymore? She started questioning herself, asking herself what was wrong with her. And then all of a sudden she did something that nobody expected. She curled up into a little ball and crawled into a cocoon. Carly thought that in the cocoon she was going to be safe, that things would be clearer, that maybe she just needed a minute to unwind. But she felt trapped. She felt smaller. The cocoon just seemed to restrict her, and she didn't like it. She thought, oh my gosh, I am being punished because I went into this cocoon. I'm being punished. It's not right. There was a part of her that wanted to crawl out of the cocoon and go join all of her other caterpillar friends, because it was really dark in there and it was really scary. It was really unfamiliar and nothing at all was the same. From the outside, everything looked the same. All of the caterpillars seen the cocoon she had crawled in and they didn't know anything was changing. And Carly herself didn't even realize that anything was changing because she felt stuck. She felt constricted, and she felt like she had made a horrible, horrible, horrible mistake. But then the cocoon started opening up, and she started seeing this new world. Everything looked brighter. Everything looked different. All of a sudden, instead of eating the leaves, she enjoyed tasting all the sweet nectar out of the flowers. And Whenever she realized that she had wings and she could fly, she was ecstatic. She had become a beautiful butterfly that was able to fly away, and soon she made friends with all of the other butterflies. Carly's identity was shifting. It had to shift inside of that cocoon from being a caterpillar to being the beautiful butterfly that could fly. The cocoon gave her a safe place to transform. And whenever you're transitioning in your business, that's exactly what it feels like. Whenever you're that in between place, you're in transition. Your identity is shifting from the old way of being to a new way of being. And you're not quite for sure what it is. And it's a really, really uncomfortable place to be. And you may just want to run and hide. But what a lot of business people do is they think there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my strategy. I have to work harder. So they frantically start making all these changes. They start making new content, new courses, new programs, new social media posts. They start asking other people, is this good? Will this work? Because they're frantically trying to figure out what's wrong, because they know something's not right, and because they don't know what that transition is, they don't know what they're becoming, they panic. And this is why a lot of people chase one shiny object to the next. They enroll in more courses. They create more programs. They create different content. They go in a different direction. And actually, all this is chaos. It's noise. And noise does not create visibility. Noise creates confusion. So it's really important to know that whenever you're confused, whenever all this has happened, is to stop. Just stop. Creating more content is not the answer. Joining more programs is not the answer. You're uncomfortable and you're trying to be comfortable because there's something in your head that's telling you that being uncomfortable means danger. It's like that old show, Lost in Space. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. And you have that playing in your head. Danger, danger, danger. So you're trying to act so you don't have to be afraid, so that you can prevent the danger. But the real danger is in all this action you're taking. Whenever you're feeling this way, the very best thing to do is to crawl into your cocoon and create space. Create time to change. Create time for that transition. Allow yourself to be. And understand that growth oftentimes feels wrong before it feels right. And sometimes being still will feel wrong. And you might need to be still for an hour, for a day, for a week, however long it takes for you to be still, for you to start gaining that clarity you need is how long you need to take. Know that forcing visibility, creating all these programs is not creating influence, it's creating noise. Because true influence does not come from doing more or creating more. It comes from alignment and consistency. So the first step is always to get into alignment. When you're in alignment, the path becomes clear, then you will become consistent. It's important to remember you're not behind, you're not failing, you're not stuck. You're exactly where you're supposed to be right in this moment in time, and you're in a cocoon season. You're in a period of transitioning. So here's your weekly growth challenge, if you're brave enough to accept it and if it feels aligned with you. It's a journal prompt for 15 minutes. So for 15 minutes, just journal and answer this question. What am I ready to outgrow in my business this year? What am I ready to outgrow in my business this year? And then about the last minute, ask yourself, this year, I'm allowing myself to grow beyond and put what no longer fits in your life. And most of all, I ask that you give yourself permission to let go of what no longer fits. Give yourself permission to let go. Give yourself permission to stand authentically tall. Because when you give yourself permission, you're going to be able to help so many more people. Your gifts are going to shine. So here's a permission slip from me to you to let go of what no longer is serving you. And this matters a whole lot because whenever we name what's changing, we're no longer fighting it. And it turns discomfort into clarity instead of confusion. And most of all, it prevents you from forcing visibility before you're aligned with it. And it builds self-trust because whenever you name what you're outgrowing, you start trusting your decisions. You start trusting and believing in yourself to grow and to expand. And it creates a steady level of visibility for you and your business. So thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Biz Success in 15, where you'll get more stories, action steps, and visibility, influence, and profits. We'll be speaking about speak before approval, leadership, conviction, and finding your voice. And if you're still figuring out how visibility fits you, I have a resource called 7 Paths to Visibility. It helps you identify the visibility style that fits with who you are and is aligned with your personal beliefs, values, and personality. You can download it at giftfromcindyj.com. So big hugs, and I hope you have a great week. See you next week. Bye-bye.